Hello, Madam Azlina, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Good to see you. Dr. Aina,
See you too.
are you there?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Doctor. How are you today?
I'm really great. Still here waiting.
All right, okay. We will start right at 12, okay, Doctor? To all the participants, we'll be starting at 12. All right, it's already 12. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to everyone. I would like to welcome you all to today's second episode of Stand Out in the Job Market, Perfecting Your Cover Letter, CV and Interview Skills, brought to you by UITM Kuala Pilah and our main collaborator, Pangasinan State University. So today's webinar is on preparing for interview. I am Najwa and I'll be your moderator for today. So today's webinar is conducted with the objective of equipping participants with essential skills, strategies, and confidence to excel in job interviews through expert insights. So before we begin our webinar shortly, I would like to remind you to please have your microphone on mute during the session. We also recommend you to use the chat box if you have any question during the session so that we can read it out for the speaker during the Q&A session. Those who are watching from YouTube Live, you may leave it in the comment section. For the student participants, don't forget to fill in the attendance form link that will be provided in the chat box later. It is best reminded that certificate will only be given if both sessions are attended. So we are very honored to have Madam Azliana as well as Dr. Eileen as our distinguished speakers for today's webinar. So let me introduce you. Our first speaker, Madam Azliana Zainal Arifin, is a senior lecturer at UITM Negeri Sembilan, Campus Kuala Pilah, with over 15 years of experience in English language education. She holds a Masters of Applied Linguistics, English, from University Putra Malaysia and a Bachelor of Education in TESOL from UiTM. Her research focuses on discourse analysis, critical thinking and technology-enhanced learning, with notable work on schematic structure of job application letters in Malaysian companies. An expert in reflective writing and communication strategies, she is our well-equipped speaker to guide participants in mastering language confidence as well as techniques in excelling job applications and interview. So we are very honored to invite you, Madam Azliana, to share your expertise as a speaker, guiding our participants for today. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much, Ms. Najwa, our moderator for today. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Dr. Eileen, for agreeing to join us as one of the speakers. For today, I'm going to share with you a little bit of my experiences and knowledge when it comes to preparing for a job interview. Okay, I'm going to share my slides. Okay. All right. So basically, we're going to look at preparing for a job interview. In our previous session, we have had the topic about perfecting the resume and CV and leveraging in on LinkedIn, right? So today I'm going to look at preparing for a job interview. So basically, for my session, I'm going to cover these 5 topics. Before the interview, attire for the interview, during the interview, common mistakes during interviews, as well as what you need to do after the interview. Okay, so basically before the interview session, these are some of the things that you are recommended to do. Okay, the first one is to reply the email of the interview invitation. Sometimes you receive the invitation through emails. Sometimes you got a phone call from the company. Sometimes it's a text message. All right, so regardless of the medium that is used to invite you for the interview, please write an email, a formal email to the company, thanking them for calling you for the interview, and state that you are going to attend the interview at what time and where. Okay, so you have to write this email to show that you are interested and you are ready for the interview. Okay, and then don't forget to do research about the company. If the company is a big company, like in Malaysia, Petronas is well known, Malaysia Airlines is well known, UiTM is also well known. So if the company that you are going to attend interview for one of these companies, so it's very well known, but sometimes you get invitation from companies that are less well known. So you need to know the name of the company and then look for the vision and mission of the company. Why is this very important? Because during the interview, whenever you are asked questions, okay, you need to use some of the words that are in their vision and mission in your answers to showcase that you have done your homework. And this is also very important for you to tailor your answers to what the company wants. Okay, and then look for the size of the company. Is it a big company, a medium company, or small size company, whether the company sells products or offers service. So you need to know all these particular things before you actually go for the interview. So please do your research about the company before you attend the interview. Okay, and then refer to the advertisement of the job vacancy. Why? Because sometimes we don't send our resume or CV to one company or 2 companies. Sometimes we send to multiple number of companies. So you might get lost, or you might forget which company this particular interview is for. So go back to the job advertisement. Okay, look at the responsibility as well as the requirement that is listed in the job vacancy. For example, if the requirement is fluent in English, okay, so maybe you have experience joining Toastmasters or English debate. So you might want to include that in your resume, okay, or prepare to actually tell them in the interview session so that they know that they can assess the level of proficiency level of your English language. Okay, so go back to the advertisement and look at the responsibilities and requirement for that particular job that you are interviewing for. Okay. Another thing is to plan the journey to the venue. So this is very, very important. For example, in Kuala Lumpur or in Selangor, the traffic is most of the time is bad. Okay, congestion everywhere. So you need to plan your journey before from the place that you are staying to the company. Why? Because you need to know how long will it take. Okay, please try to arrive at the venue of the interview about 15 to 30 minutes before the interview starts so that you can stay calm. All right, you can be ready for the interview. Okay. Another one is you are advised to prepare a specific question about the company of the job that you are interviewing for. Why? Because when you have these particular questions, it shows the level of maturity as well as it shows that you have interest in the company. You have done your homework, and make sure that the question that you have prepared for, the questions are positive questions about the company or the job. Okay. All right. Now let's look at the attire for the interview. So basically, when we look at industries, in general, there are three different industries. Okay. So we have the first one, formal or business professional. So this particular attire usually is for industries like finance, law, government, corporate military, and education. So people who work in these industries usually wear suits or blazers, court shoes or closed-toe shoes, skirts and blouses to convey professionalism, authority, and a serious image. All right. And we have another different industry. Okay. Sometimes you see people in the retail industry, hospitality, creative industry, they wear business casual attire. So you can see that they wear polo shirts, collared shirts, khakis, dresses, relaxed footwear like loafers or flats. And this is to provide a balance between professionalism as well as comfort. All right. And the last one is casual. So industries like tech companies and some creative agencies, the employees go to work wearing casual outfit. So they wear jeans or t-shirt, hoodies and sneakers because this is to encourage a relaxed and collaborative work environment. All right. So these are some of the types of outfit that people wear when they go to work. All right. So we have formal or business professional where they wear suits, business casual where they wear a little bit more relaxed outfit, and casual is more relaxed compared to the rest of the types of attire. So before you go to for the interview, number one, check the company's dress code. Okay, so you have to really pay attention to the dress code, how they dress over there, whether it suits the role that you are going to interview for. And then can consider the industry and the role. All right, sometimes maybe it's you are interviewing for a job in the creative industry, but your role is a manager. So although it's in the creative industry, but because your role is a managing role, so you need to wear something that looks professional. Okay. So for the attire for the interview, you need to dress professionally for the interview. Although, let's say you are going to interview for a role as an actor, for example, so it's creative industry. It doesn't mean that you can go in and wear ripped jeans or sandals. You know, you still have to dress professionally for the interview to show that you are serious to get hired. All right. And another one is ensure your clothes are neat, clean, it's ironed, okay, well maintained, and most importantly, it's comfortable for you. It's okay to buy new clothes if you can. Okay, it's not a must, but if you feel like you want to buy new clothes, go ahead and buy them. But make sure that you are comfortable wearing the clothes, because let's say you're going to sit in an interview for at least 20 minutes or half an hour. Okay, so you need to be comfortable in the clothes that you're wearing for the interview. All right. So for our friends in the Philippines, okay, those from Pangasinan State University. So in Malaysia, as you know, we are very diverse. We have the Malays, the Chinese, Indian, and the many ethnicities in Borneo, in Sabah and Sarawak. So we have different traditional costumes. All right. So in Malaysia, the Malaysian national traditional costume is baju kurung, for the ladies and baju Melayu for the men. So it's not common for the men to wear baju Melayu to work, but it's very, very common for the ladies to wear baju kurung to work. So here in Malaysia, we also accept people to wear baju kurung when they want to attend a job interview. So for those my students, okay, from Malaysia, so if you want to wear baju kurung for an interview, if you're wearing a hijab, so make sure that the styling of the hijab is simple, okay, not too heavy, simple, clean, neat. All right, your baju kurung needs to be plain. Okay, avoid wearing something with prints, like big prints, big flowers, big butterflies, you know. So wear something that is plain. Okay, and the colors that you need to choose, not only for baju kurung but for the rest of the attire, your suits, your shirts, your blazers, please choose neutral colors like black, white, uh, navy blue, brown, beige, you know, soft colors. If you're wearing baju kurung, try to choose soft colors. You know, don't wear bright colors, but it might scare the interviewers away. Okay, so please use neutral colors. All right. Okay. Now, during the interview, what are you supposed to do? Okay, the interview starts the minute you walk into the room. When you open the door and you step into the room, that is when they start assessing you as the interviewee. Okay, so the way you dress, the way you walk, okay, the way you talk to people. So you have to, that's the first impression. People always say the first impression is very important. It is very true in this case. All right, so keep your posture. Okay, so please make sure if you're sitting down, okay, please make sure that your posture is straight. Okay, try not to lean on the back of the chair. Okay, because sometimes if you're not careful, you might slouch. So just keep your posture straight. Okay, and then keep calm. Just try to stay calm. Okay, and then greet everyone in the room. So sometimes you shake hands, sometimes you do not shake hands. For our friends in the Philippines, in Malaysia, normally we do not shake hands between the female and the male. Okay, so normally we don't shake hands, especially for the Muslims. But for if you are being as if the interviewer extend their hands, so we shake their hands. Okay, so when you shake the hands, hold their hands firm, okay, to show that you are confident. Okay, and many times the interviewer, they will start with asking with small talk. Small talk is where they will ask, how are you, okay, where you were coming from for the interview. This small talk is actually to make you relax. Okay, yeah, to loosen up a bit. Okay, so when you are being asked questions, you have to be honest with your answers. If you have done something, so you tell them that you have done it. If you haven't done something, so please do not lie to them, because most of the time it's very difficult to make up stories. Okay, so be honest with your answers. One very common question that interviewer like to ask is for you to tell them about yourself. Okay, so when it comes to telling them about our personal about ourselves, so why do they ask them? Okay, why do they ask them? Number one is to assess your communication skills, to see your fluency, to see your confidence. Okay, in your communicating. Another reason is to find out if your skills and your knowledge match the job description. Okay, so you really need to know. You really need to be able to explain yourself. Okay, how do we explain them? When they ask, how do we answer this kind of question? Okay, this is one particular technique that is that was prepared by a career guidance coach named Richard McMahon. Okay, use the seat technique. So S is skills that have skills you have that match your job description. Okay, and then E is education background and experiences. So relate all this to the job that you are interviewing for. Okay, your achievements, again, that has got to do with the job that you are interviewing for. And then the type of person you are that can add value to the company. Okay, so these are the things that you can actually summarize and tell them when they ask that kind of question. Okay, All right. So, and the fourth one is have a short list of questions to ask the employer. Why do we need to ask questions? Because it shows that you have done your homework. You know about the company, you know the mission, you know the vision, you know maybe a little bit about the scope of the job that you are interviewing for, and it is to show that you care and you want to get hired. Okay. All right. So the next one is all right. So this is also another common question. So the interviewer always asks you, okay, what is your expected salary? Why? How do we answer this? Okay. So we do not want to sound like we are demanding on this salary. So this is one of the ways to answer this question. Okay. So state your understanding, what your understanding is about the salary range for someone in your position with your qualifications, and then ask them how much a company is paying. Okay, if you are as an experienced worker, you have been working for 10 years, you have certain experiences, you have been working for in different departments, then I think it will be different, a little bit different. You can demand a certain salary range. But if you're a fresh graduate, maybe you can use this particular answer. Okay. So you answer them. I understand that generally someone with qualifications like mine, a graduate in degree in English for professional communication, is paid between 2,000 ringgit and 2,000 ringgit. Based on my qualifications, may I know how much I can get for this position? So you basically have actually given them the range that you are looking for, but you want to know at the same time how much they are going to pay you. So this one doesn't sound desperate, doesn't sound like you are demanding on the salary. Okay, but at the same time you want to know how much you're getting paid so that you can decide later whether you want to accept the job or not. Okay. Now, let's look at some of the common mistakes during the interview. So the first one is not paying attention. Paying attention is very, very important. Please listen attentively to the questions that are given by the interviewer. Okay, so when you don't pay attention, you will not be able to effectively give your answers. Okay, or you might even answer wrongly. Number two is oversharing personal information. If they don't ask you whether you are married or not, if they don't ask you whether you have kids or not, if they don't ask you about your hobbies, please do not share this particular information because they are not important. Okay. All right. Another one is not having adequate knowledge about the company, which means that you did not do enough research before you attend the interview. Okay, having a little bit of knowledge about the company is very, very important because it can help in how you answer your question. Okay. A big no-no is late for the interview. Please do not be late for the interview because it shows so much about your character. Okay, is you have to really plan your journey so that you will not be late for the interview. Okay. Another common mistake is not dressing appropriately. Please be reminded that although it's a casual type of job, okay, so it doesn't mean that you can actually dress casually. Okay, so you need to dress appropriately for the interview to show that you are interested, you really want to get hired. Another problem is not displaying the right amount of energy. You know that the tone of voice, your tone of voice, the way you answer, your eye contact, okay, the posture of your body, all these are actually non-verbal communications, okay, where the interviewer can actually assess, where they can see and they assess and they judge you, and they might feel like, okay, this person does not seem like she is interested, so you have to display the right amount of energy to show. You have to show enthusiasm, you have to show that you want to get hired. Okay. Another big no-no is for you to speak negatively about your previous company. Of course, we have problems in any company that we work for, okay, as an employee. But what you can tell them is what are the things that you have learned from your previous company, which you can help you to improve yourself, all right, and help the company grow as well. And finally, after the interview, what should we do? Now, immediately after the interview, go back, okay, write a thank you, a formal thank you email to the interviewer. Get to know the interviewer's name, their position, write a thank you email to them. This shows that you actually are serious about the job that you are looking for. Okay. A week later, make a follow-up call and ask them about your status. Okay. And if you still don't get the job, or they say that there's still no news about it, 2 weeks later, please call again. All right. And ask them about your status. If you get the job, then Alhamdulillah, good for you. If you do not get the job, ask for feedback. Ask for what are the things that you can improve on. Ask about the person who got the job. What are the criteria that the person has that you do not have, so that you can improve in later job vacancies. All right. So basically, those are all the things I needed to cover. I wanted to cover. So these are the list of the references that I have actually referred to. Okay. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.
Thank you, Madam Azliana, for those insightful tips. You've covered thoroughly on the attires, the pre, the post, as well as the during interview sessions. Okay, now we are the participants still here hanging on? Okay, can you probably give us some thumb ups? Okay, thumbs ups, probably some loves, some reactions. Okay, now we are going to be looking through the questions from the participants. If you have any, you may write in the chat box. So for the first question is from Norain Zoraimi. While sitting down during the interview, is it appropriate to cross your legs, Madam Azliana?
Yeah, I think for this particular issue, different people have different opinion. Okay, to me, if you feel comfortable crossing your legs and your legs is covered by the table, okay, the interviewers cannot actually see your legs, then it's fine. So if not, there is another way of sitting down. You can actually put one of your foot behind the other foot, like how Princess Diana used to sit down, or the queens and the princesses. Okay, so you can actually do that instead of crossing your legs. But I don't think it's a big issue unless you're wearing short skirt. That you might be a little bit more. You have to be a little bit more careful.
All right. So for the second question from Natasha, Madam Azliana, from fresh graduates who may feel nervous about their lack of work experience, do you have any tips on how they can build confidence in the job interview?
Okay, so it's normal to feel nervous. We are human beings, okay, and it's good to have a little bit of nervous because it actually pushes us to do better. Okay, so one of the ways to reduce this nervousness is to practice. To practice in front of the mirror, to practice with another person. Maybe you can ask someone to play the role of an interviewer so that you can practice with the person. Okay, look for answers, look for questions that might be asked on an interview, and get ready with the answers. Okay, but still you have to be flexible. All right, don't a big no is, do not try to memorize answers. When you try to memorize something and you are nervous, if you cannot control your nervousness, whatever that you have memorized might be gone. Okay, so don't memorize, but try to understand the questions and the answers that you might answer. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Azliana. Let's move on to the second question. Dr. Rafida, can we bring our handbag into the interview room?
Yeah, definitely. But the type of handbag that you want to bring, try to bring something that is simple. Okay. The color is also important. The color, try to find neutral colors, or black or navy or beige. Okay. I think it's fine to bring handbag. Okay, for an interview.
All right. Next question from Yusya. Research about the company.
Okay. Yeah, I think if, let's say, this one you need to practice with another person. Okay, maybe you can ask a person to to ask you questions, okay, so that you'll know whether you can answer those questions or not, or maybe you can actually do some research of the possible questions that might be asked in an interview session. So try to find those questions and try to find the answers to that question about the company.
All right, moving on. Oh, okay. We have a note from Dr. Angeline. She said that perhaps in our culture, crossing legs is not a fantastic stance. So until we get a less conservative than now, probably. Okay, perhaps in the future, who knows? Okay. So next question from Muhammad Shafiq Yusuf. What are the things that we can and cannot bring during the interview sessions? Probably like smartphone, notebooks, and files.
It's fine. It's fine to bring smartphones. Just remember to put it on mute. Notebooks, fine. Please don't forget to bring a pen. Okay, maybe they might need you to write something or sign something. So bring a pen. It's fine to bring files. But the type of file that you want to bring, just make sure that it looks professional. Okay.
Okay, I think we have two more questions from Nurain Zoraimi again. How to show confidence through your speech?
Okay, speaking skills. Okay, when it comes to language, okay, language proficiency, we have to look at the 4 skills, right? Reading, speaking, writing, and listening. So for speaking, if you want to be confident, there's only one way: practice, 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 and practice.
Thank you, Madam Azliana. Let's go through our last question from Nurul Hazimah Kama. How should we respond if we don't know the answer to a technical or industry-specific question, probably a jargon?
Okay, so like I told you just now, be honest. Do not say you know something when you don't actually know. All right, so you really need to be honest. If you don't know about something, just be honest and tell them that I have no knowledge about that particular issue or that particular technical or whatever, you know. But I will want to learn more about it. Okay, show that you are positive about wanting to learn more about these things that you might have to do once you get hired. Okay, because if you lie and they give you follow-up questions and you are not able to answer, then it shows that you lied. Okay, that it will not be a good impression. Okay.
Thank you very much, Madam Azliana, as well as our participants for those engaging questions. Now, let's move on to our second distinguished speaker, Dr. Eileen. Are you there? Dr. Eileen, are you there, Doctor?
Yes, I'm sorry. Sorry, I
It's
had a
fine, it's
technical
fine,
glitch.
Doctor. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
good
So,
afternoon. Good
good
afternoon to each and
afternoon, Doctor.
everyone.
All right. Let me read a little bit about Dr. Eileen first. Okay. Our second speaker, Dr. Eileen Abuan Batang, is the acting University Board Secretary of Pangasinan State University since January 2019, and also an associate professor managing board matters, policies, as well as administrative processes. She teaches language and communication at Pangasinan State University, holding a PhD in English language from Benguet State University and a Master of Science in Teaching Languages from Virgen Maligrosa University. She has also pursued study in special education. Her career spans education, customer service, and media, having worked as a call center agent and a station manager at Star FM Tuguegarao. So skilled in public speaking, curriculum development, media operations, and research. She also holds a TESDA certification in front office services, adding to her expertise in customer service and hospitality management. So with that, we are very fortunate to have Dr. Eileen today with us to share her knowledge as well as tips and strategies on preparing for interview. The floor is yours, Doctor. Doctor, we cannot hear you.
I'm sorry.
Probably.
Yeah. Good Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you also for all the participants. I guess we have a lot of participants online at the same time watching over our Facebook and for every opportunities that they may have this afternoon. I'd like to thank you all for joining us, though it's a very short opportunity for each and everyone. But let me assure you that it's going to be a very fruitful conversation and at the same time a very heartful and healthy communication with the price that we have to indicate in this particular setup. So let me just have a share, or let me just share my PowerPoint presentation for this afternoon. Okay, so just a bit.
Dr. Eileen, are you able to find the present tab or button? Okay, I think we probably have lost a connection with Dr. Eileen. So we will wait for a few minutes for her to get back online. Okay.
I'm so sorry, everyone. I just had a technical glitch. I'm so sorry, ma'am.
It's
I was trying to open my PowerPoint presentation, but it suddenly had the technical glitch again.
it's fine.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. I hope everybody could see my presentation.
Yes, we can see it clearly.
Okay. Okay. So let me first start with how to prepare for an interview. Our speaker, the first speaker that we had for this afternoon, she gave us a very quick roundabout of how things work and how things start and how things end when it comes to preparing for an interview. But this time, what I'm going to introduce is actually two parts. These are just two parts in preparing for an interview, which would prevail and would lead us to get stand out and get hired at the end. So just going to present the strategies for us to become successful for a particular interview. Okay, so let's start first with the interview process. So the interview process, we have to understand two things in the interview process. First, we have to understand what kind of interview are we going into, and what do the interviewers would look for. So these are the two things that we have to remember when we are looking forward to having or getting that particular invitation for an interview. So the first thing is to, how do we know, or what type of interview are we going into if we are being invited or if we're already invited to participate? So there are actually several types of interview. There are six types of interview. One is we have the one-on-one interview, we have the panel, we have the phone, we have the video, we have the behavioral, and we have the technical. So let me just give you a briefer on this particular types of interview. Of course, the very common is a one-on-one interview, which is a traditional face-to-face interview between the applicant and a single interviewer. And this actually allows for direct interaction and personal assessment. So basically, if it's on a one-on-one interview, normally you as the interviewee and the interviewer would normally talk. Okay, so that's one-on-one. The second would be the panel. The panel interview is involves multiple interviewers, usually 3 to about 5 persons, and they're questioning a candidate at the same time. It actually evaluates how well the candidate handles group dynamics and at the same time the pressure. So this is actually a quite a lot more difficult, but for some people or for some interviewees, they would actually enjoy it because they can actually have the opportunity also to look at the members or the interviewers, and at the same time, or the interview, they have the opportunity to talk to them personally and at the same time get to know them better. Okay. The third one is the phone interview. The phone interview is actually an initial screening interview, and it's conducted over the phone. And it assesses the candidate's communication skills and basic qualifications before a face to face or final interview. So basically, when we talk about phone interview, this is just somehow a kind of, it's not that formal, but it's not also that too informal. So it's more of the middle. It's kind of formal and informal at the same time. The next type of interview is what we call the video interview. The video interview is or usually happens in a remote areas. Like for example, I am here in the Philippines and you are there in Malaysia. So basically, when an interviewer would ask you, they would normally convince you, or they would normally tell you that you go on a phone or on a video interview because of the location. Okay, and this is normally done or conducted via platforms like also the Zoom or the Google, like what we are doing right now, and it is commonly used for a long distance or initial screenings. Okay, next we have the behavioral interview. The behavioral interview, on the other hand, focuses on how a candidate handled specific situations in the past. So it uses the STAR method or STAR method questions, which stands for S stands for situation, T is for task, A is for action, and R is for result. This is to assess the problem solving and the decision making skills. And finally, we have the technical interview, which evaluates a candidate's job specific skills and expertise, and often through problem solving tasks, coding tests, or technical questions related to the role. So these are the types of interview that we have to look forward whenever we are invited to have a particular interview, or we are invited for an interview process. Now, after realizing or after knowing what type of interview we are going to and what we are going to face, then we have to understand also what the interviewers would look for. Of course, the interviewers would look for our skills, our attitude, and also our culture fit. How do we fit into their specific or needs? Do they really need this particular kind of attitude, or do they really need this kind of behavior? So these are the things that we have to understand during the interview process. Following on, we have to understand also, as this was already mentioned by our previous speaker, we have to understand and do some researching about the company. Of course, you have to study their website, their mission, and their values. You have to understand, you have to learn more about them. This is for us to enable to know the company better and to better look for an opportunity that when they ask questions about the company or how do you know the company, then you could readily answer their questions. Second, you have to analyze the job description and the required skills. Of course, you can't apply for a job that you don't know. So basically, you have to understand what the company needs. You have to analyze what the job needs. You have to know your skills also. Are they fitted for that company that you are looking forward to working with? So you have all these things in mind, and that you have to do some researching. And of course, you have to research the industry trends and the news. You have to know, aside from knowing the company, you have to know what's their industry about. You have to know what's happening around that company. You have to know what's the news on that company, because not knowing the company means not knowing also the job. Okay. Next is, you have to craft your personal brand. Crafting your personal brand means knowing yourself. Okay, so you have to know yourself fully. When applying for a particular job and ending up having an interview, you have to know your skills. And in doing so, you have to develop a 30-second elevator pitch. When we say your 30-second elevator pitch, you have to know who you are. That's number one. The second is what you do. The third is what you offer. And the fourth is you have to know your goal. Now, when you talk about yourself, you have, of course, you have to say your name and your background, and you have to know your skills and your experience or your education. You have to thoroughly know them by heart. And then you have to know your value or your benefit that you can bring to that particular company. And of course, what you are actually seeking. Are you seeking, or are you looking for a job, a partnership, or an opportunity? So, all of these things you have to know. That's actually crafting your personal brand. You have to know yourself. More than anybody else, you have to know first yourself. And when you craft your personal brand, you can actually sell yourself. In doing so, in participating for an interview, it's like selling yourself, because you have to tell who you are. You have to tell them what you do. You have to tell them what you can offer. And at the same time, you have to tell them your personal and your own goals. Having said that, there are some common interview questions that we have to understand as well. Of course, the most common and the number one questions often talked about yourself. So most questions reflect on, tell me something about yourself. So when you tell something about yourself, you have to tell about your past, your present, and your future. But this doesn't mean that you have to tell everything. No. When you say, when they ask you something about can you tell me something about yourself? And you can do it in a one liner, in one sentence or two sentences perhaps. So for example, they're going to ask me, can you tell me something about yourself? Then you have to look at, who are you? Okay, who are you? What are your skills? What have you done, or what are you going to do, and what are your goals? So you have to tell that. So if, for example, if they're going to ask me, can you tell me something about yourself? Then I would readily answer and say, I'm Eileen Batang. I am currently the acting board secretary of Pangasinan State University. I'm working on communications. I've taught communications on students as well, and I'm looking forward to working in the company, having this same common goal, and also pursuing to become a better individual to make the company to reach its great heights. So these are some of the things that we can probably answer for a particular question, like telling something about yourself. Okay. Next one. Another questions that they would somehow be asking is, what do you want, or why do you want this job? Now, if you are applying, let's say, for example, for a common or a specific job in a particular company, let's say, for example, you are a fresh graduate, or just a newly graduate student who is actually into English communication, and you wanted to work for a particular radio station perhaps, and then they would ask you, why do you want this job? Then you have to align it with the company goals. As we have previously mentioned, you have to know what are the goals of the company. In doing so, if you know the goals of the company, let's say, for example, the company, like a radio station or a TV station for that matter, would wanted to have sales. One of their common goals is to have sales, then most probably you could say that. If they're going to ask you, why do you want this job? Then maybe you could say in very simple answer, you could just simply say that I am really interested because I know my skills in communication would really elevate the company into greater heights, making it more fruitful in the next coming years, 5 to 10 years from now. So that's actually one of the greatest answers that you could give to a particular interviewer. Okay. Next one is your strengths and weaknesses. You have to make sure that you provide real examples for this. Now, what do you mean when you say strengths and weaknesses? Can we actually say our strengths? Yes, of course, because it would really provide the company to look for a person that's really suitable for the job. But is it really proper to state or to say our weaknesses? Take note, when you tell your weaknesses should also be your strength. Okay? So for example, one of your weakness is getting getting up early. So that's one of your weakness. I mean, you probably arrived at school, or most probably arrived in a common area, or in during meeting places. Maybe you're a bit late for some time that you cannot probably avoid because of most probably because you sleep late. Okay, so that's some of the most common weaknesses of a person, them being late in an office or probably in their classes. So can I use that? Because most probably that's one of my experiences. Yes. Can I use that as my weakness and make use of my weakness as my strength? Of course you can use that. But how? How can I answer that? If my weakness is getting late, then how can I use my being late into my strength? Then you can probably say, if I was being interviewed, and I would rather say that I am late. Sometimes I often get late. So how do I express that into something beautiful, wonderful, and make it as my strength? Though I am late in arriving, I make it to a point that I also get home late because I tend to finish my work before leaving the office. So you see, your weakness now become your strength. So even if you have those kind of weakness, you can actually use that as your strength. Okay? And then of course, you have to know your behavioral questions. You have to know how to answer them. When you say behavioral questions, these are questions that are often asked by an employer concerning about a particular incident or a particular situation in the company that you have experienced, or during your work years, or during your time when you are still studying, if you are a fresh graduate. Okay, so when we talk about using the STAR method, we talk about the situation, S, which stands for the situation, the T, which stands for the task, A, which stands for the action, and the R, which stands for the result. So, how do we resolve this, and how do we answer behavioral questions? Let's say, for example, for example, the interviewer would ask you, how would you resolve an issue of a colleague of yours whom you had an argument in that particular office or your company that you're working with? So how do you resolve that, or how do you answer that? Now, by stating the STAR method, or by using the STAR method, the situation, the task, the action, and the result, then you can answer that behavioral question. Well, you can just probably say that in resolving issues with my colleague, I would rather look for an opportunity to have a dialogue with my colleague and come up with a decision, seeking help, or even mentoring from other colleagues that I have, and then coming up with a decision, a collaborative decision later on as our result. So that would be the good answer to a behavioral question. Okay, now moving on, let's also understand the non-verbal communication, which is actually present in or during an interview. So, of course, you have to have an eye contact the confidence and the posture. These are very important. Now, question: how do we have an eye contact with a person? Do we really need to look at the person's eyes directly? Here's a key takeaway for that. You don't really need to look at the person's eye directly, but the catch is you can look at them at their forehead. So, in that way, that person, when you look at them, when you look at that person, they think that you're looking at them directly to the eye, but actually, you're looking at them on their forehead. So, that's a technique. That's one technique for eye contact. Next, of course, the professional dress code, which has been tackled or discussed a while back. And of course, you have to have the positive body language. Now, again, the question for us, like here in the Philippines, when an interviewer would ask us to have an interview with them, they would simply tell us when or how are we going to handle the situation. Sometimes, no, or sometimes also, an interviewer would tell you, unless otherwise, that the interviewer would not tell you to sit down. Please do not sit down. You wait for the interviewer to ask you to sit down before taking a seat, unless otherwise that this was provided prior to the interview proper. So when an instruction was given to you that, okay, for all the for all the interviewers for this for the all the interviewees, let me just tell you that when they ask you to get inside the room, please take your seat immediately. If they ask you, or if they were told you to do that, then you can do so. Otherwise, if not, please do not sit down unless you're being told. Okay. So these are some of the nonverbal communications that you have to understand. Also you have to remember that your hands should be put together. It's either your left on top of your right or your right on top of your left, or it depends. If there's no table, then you can just simply put your hands on your laps. Okay, so that's some of the key takeaways that you have to understand during an interview. Next is, how do we handle difficult questions? Let's say, for example, you were previously employed, and then suddenly you stopped looking for a job because you are going to look after something first, and then after quite some time you wanted to again have a good job, looking for another job. So there was a gap between your first employment against your incoming employment. So what should we do? How do we handle this? How do we do it, or how do we explain it to our, or for the person who's actually interviewing us? So how do we answer this? Let's say, for example, a person or the interviewer would tell you, how come you have 2 years no work experience after your first job employment? Then you have to focus on the skills that you have gained during those 2 years that you were unemployed. What have you done during those 2 years? Maybe you could just simply say, after my first job, I ended up working at home, taking care of my parents or my siblings, because my mother or my parents wanted me to stay there for quite a time. However, it didn't stop there, because I went into some trainings, some seminars, attended some seminars to actually gain further skills. So in that particular answer would lead you to the person to consider you. Oh, okay, so that's actually a great way of letting yourself be equipped despite you not having a job for quite a time. Next, salary expectations. Can If an interviewer would ask you about your salary, can you specifically state your salary? Yes, of course, but if not, please do not say it. It's a no. Do not tell your salary expectation unless otherwise being asked by the interviewer. Okay. Next, the question is, why should we hire you? Now, this question is somehow easy when you try to look at it and when you try to listen to it, but actually it's one of the most difficult questions. Why? Because you are really going to connect your skills to the company's need. You don't normally get the job because you know the job. No, you are hired by a company because you have the skills that the company needs. So when the question is, why should we hire you? Then the best answer would be your skills as against the need of the company would be better to answer that question. So let's say, for example, again, in a particular company, they would ask you, let's say, for example, in the call center industry, why should we hire you? Then you could probably say that because of my experience as a communicator, I am well equipped on how to handle things and how to handle concerns of clients that I can share, explicitly share to our clients in this particular company, which is actually one of the basic need of that particular company. Okay. Now, if you have all of these things in your mind and you all put it in your heart, then you are ready to practice. How to do it? Practice with a friend or a mentor. Ask somebody to lead you or to guide you. You can use a lot of AI-based interview tools that you can actually have a practice with, and of course, you can always record and review responses for improvements. And finally, you also have to look at or to consider the importance of follow up after the interview. So, first, the best time to do a follow up after an interview is typically within 24 to 48 hours. You can send them a thank you email expressing your gratitude for the opportunity and reiterating your interest in the role. You have to keep it brief, and you have to keep your gratitude and your key discussion points of equal par. After that, after 1 to 2 weeks, you may need to make a follow up polite, and you make a follow up politely that you haven't heard back, and then you mention the interview date, and of course, express your willingness to provide any additional information. With that, I'd like to thank you and leave you with Bobby answer. Success is where preparation and opportunity meet. Thank you so much for joining, and these are my references for this particular notes. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
and
Thank you very much, Dr. Eileen. That was such a knowledge boost covering on different types of interview, because we know that one size doesn't fit all. So we might need different approaches for different type of interviews, as well as on the personalization. Okay. So now we'll be going through the questions by the participants. You may write in the chat box. Okay. Dr. Eileen, do people in Philippines wear their traditional attire to work, similar to Malaysian, where women commonly wear baju kurung as formal work attire and men typically wear baju Melayu on Friday?
thank you for the question. Normally, here in the Philippines, we use the formal attire, which is not the Philippine attire, but normally the business attire. So what you see, what was presented a while back by our discussant was actually the formal attire or the business attire. This is actually the commonly worn dress for our interviews. So it's a business attire or the professional attire. Thank you.
All right. From Norain Zaini, Doctor, what are the tips to look professional during online interview?
During online interview, you have to be first and foremost, you have to be on time. Okay. The second tip that I could give you is you have to feel confident, even if you're not confident. Confidence is the key. Even if you don't know the answer, just smile, because right there and then you can easily remember something that you have learned, maybe from school, or maybe from a movie that you've watched, or maybe from a friend that you've talked with a while back. So these are the things that you commonly get the grasp of. If during an interview, the first thing that you have to remember is you have to have the confidence, because without the confidence you cannot actually move forward. Everything else follows. Confidence is the key. As they say, C is the key to happiness. It's the letter C, confidence. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, from Dr. Rafida, how do I address the interviewers if I do not know their title or post?
If normally, if you don't know the interviewer, if it's a lady, you have to address them by Miss or Madam. If for a man or a guy, then you have to address them by Sir. That's actually the common way of addressing them. Unless otherwise they provided that you can call them by their first name or their by last name. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Dr. Eileen. Now, another question from Nurul Hazima Kamal. How should we handle an interviewer who seems uninterested or disengaged during the interview session?
This is actually quite difficult. I've also experienced that a person who is actually interviewing me who's really not interested, maybe because that person really had something in mind that he or she really wanted to put in that particular position. But what I did was I just smile and tell them who am I really, and at the same time I just gave them something that would perk up their imagination, like making them laugh during an interview, or making or giving them a particular situation that would make somehow perk up their imagination and smile, because this is the one of the very important key technique for you to get your interviewer to get interested to you, is to let them smile. You have to be that certain that when you enter the room, you have to exude the confidence and you have to smile. And once you get their attention and let them smile, everything else follows.
Now,
Thank you.
confidence is the key, okay,
Yeah.
participants? All right. Our last question from the Google Meet is for the virtual interview, is the background on our background is important during online interview?
Yes, of course. It's really very important. That's why you have to consider the background, because this will also tell the interviewer who you are. Let's say, for example, you're being interviewed in a very good company, and then your background would be a beach front. I think that's a no. Okay, so you have to consider also the background. You have to consider, who am I speaking with? Unless otherwise that you really know that person is going to interview you, then it's fine. However, for business and for other purposes, or for professional engagement, like a professional interview, it's really important that you know and you should handle the background of your video conferencing or video meeting or interview. Thank you.
All right. So we have three questions from the YouTube, two coming from Shahira Almudin. Um, what do you think recruiters are looking for when they are asking, tell me about yourself?
Normally, it's the skills. It's the skills. It's what you can bring them. Let's say, for example, I am a company. I'm looking for somebody. I'm looking for a particular position, like a communicator, or for example, a teacher for that matter, or for example, a person who can market my company. Then I would look at how far can that person be when it comes to communicating with other people. Then if that person can actually communicate herself, and he or she can express him or herself better using the communication skills, then that's great. That's 100 points for me. Otherwise, then I think I should consider other applicants. Thank you.
All right. Okay. And another question from the same person. How should you respond when asked about your weaknesses?
Well, first things first, you have to know first what are your weaknesses that you can make it your strengths. There are no weaknesses that has no counterpart of strengths. Let's say, for example, I sometimes get easily bored. These things happen, especially during, for example, it's a very hot season in a particular area, and then sometimes if you're not really interested in a particular topic or in a particular session, then you get easily bored. Now, how do I turn my boredom into something, into my strength? How can I turn my boredom into strength? Maybe your boredom would lead you to think other things that would perk up your mood or the other's mood or emotion. So your boredom is actually your weakness, but it may become your strength as well, because during that boredom, you are thinking of something else that would make that person happy, or even looking forward to having a great conversation with you. So that's actually turning it into something your strength. Other things, like for example, I don't really want to talk to people. I'm not that type of person. So if you're not that type of person, so what do? I do scribble. So in your scribbling, maybe you can do some painting or you can do some writing. So that's your strength. See, your weakness can also be your strength. So you always have to think of something that would perk up your emotions, your yourself, that you would liven up your day. So that's something that you have to turn into. Okay. Thank you.
All right, for coming to our last question, Nurshida Hashim asks, how can candidates effectively showcase their soft skills during an interview, especially in a virtual setting?
Well, in a virtual setting, normally when we talk about our soft skills, we cannot tell them exactly, but you can actually probably say them that I have some of my skills that would really need to perk up, or that would really need to guide other people. So these are some of the things that you might want to. Although those soft skills that we have can actually be discussed in other kinds of meetings or interviews, because these soft skills can be done in ways that we can perk the emotion, or the interaction between other people. Okay, so for example, how do we probe our problem solving skills? Maybe you could cite some situations where you actually have solved problems of a colleague or a partner, or something that would talk something about your previous job, or when you were still in college, when you were still in your college years. You could tell something about those things. But of course, personal affairs can never be discussed during interviews. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I think that will be the all of today's session. Okay, we've gained a lot from today's informative sessions on how to prepare an interview based on what have been shared by our previous speaker, Madam Azliana and Dr. Eileen. Thank you very much, speakers. So
Thank
we
you so
hope
much.
that our participants have gained valuable insights, as well as not being nervous anymore, being more prepared to attend interviews and handling the Q&A sessions with more confidence. Additionally, they would make a strong impression on interviewers to navigate the interview successfully. Now, before ending our session, let's have a brief virtual photo session for today's session. Dr. Eileen, can I ask you to stop presenting? And the participants, we would like to ask for your cooperation to switch on your camera so that we can start taking our photo. Right, everyone ready? All right, everyone ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, again, yeah. 1, 2, 3. All right, let's have a free, what do we call that? Freestyle photo. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I, uh, I would, with that, we have come to the end of our webinar of 2 episodes. I would like to thank our previous speakers on 25th March, okay, Miss Anis and Dr. Levi, and our distinguished speakers of the day, Madam Maziliana and Dr. Eileen, for assisting in enhancing participants' employability by equipping them with necessary knowledge and strategies to present themselves effectively, which is hoped to increase the chances of securing job opportunities in today's competitive job market. So for the student participant, we would like to remind you to fill in the attendance and feedback form that has been sent in the chat box, okay, before you leave the meeting. And if you would like to view our first session that you might has probably miswatched it, so you may visit our YouTube channel to rewatch it, okay? I would like, with that, humbly, I would like to thank our audience for your tremendous cooperation throughout these sessions. And I would like to express my deepest gratitude on behalf of Academy of Language Studies to Pangasinan State University in making this webinar a success. Thank you very much. I hope to see you in future webinar. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day and stay safe. With that, I end our webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Eileen. Thank you, Dr. Levi and everyone from PSU.
Thank
And
you.
Salamat. Maraming salamat po.
salamat po.
Salamat po.